take out the picnic table thing because it could be confusing.
Yeah, I think that, you know, that language probably is an older holdover that probably referred to, you know, kind of more like trailhead parks and things like that.
Yep.
That would.
Yep.
Here, I guess my only concern would be, and I don't know enough about what has been done in the past, but for example, in Summerfields, you know, 4th of July, the parade that, you know, people dress up their bikes and their golf carts and, you know, American flags and have a contest. I don't know if they require, if they're already getting a special permit for that, but is this going to deter HOAs or people from throwing it because they don't want to go through that process?
They should be getting a special event permit.
I don't
They
wanna
have
get them in
not.
trouble. Yes. Gotcha. Okay. Fair enough.
So that one is technically they have been breaking the rules for however many years they've been putting that one on.
Okay. Fair enough.
I guess I just make the point that, you know, one of the reasons it's nice to have these permits is so like our police can staff appropriately if they're going to be impacting the streets. You know, it's not that our intent is to prevent this or make it difficult, but to make sure that the town can respond appropriately if we need to.
Yeah, that's a good point. Makes a lot of sense. If you have 100 people and an event going on, you probably want the police department to be aware of it.
Yeah. With golf carts and bikes.
And we require when they do the special event, a full vetting process. So it goes before Public Works, Parks, Police. Who else?
Administration.
Yeah, so
Events. The planning department, pretty much every department in the town reviews the special event permits and goes through the vetting process.
Do we have it in keeping transparency? Do we have that abundantly clear as to what that process is and who the steps, is that listed, posted somewhere? So if I want to have an event, I know that I need to do this weeks ahead of time, not 2 days ahead of time, because there's people that need to be involved.
yeah, so it's actually on the website,
Okay.
the special event application.
Perfect. I think my recommendation would be if the change obviously goes through, that we make an actual post to draw attention to where they need to go on socials. So that way, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that's buried in a lot of websites. So as long as people know that the change was there and where to find it, that'd be great.
And then this requires an actual amendment to the municipal code.
Correct. So we have 5 recommendations that would alter the municipal code. So what we would do is we'll come back with an amended municipal code based off the feedback that we get here. And at that time, you would have to adopt it. Same thing with policy changes to the town hall room rentals and the shelter rentals.
Okay, and I know Carolyn's not here. Aaron, do you know offhand for just a generic municipal code amendment there, is that a first and second reading with the public hearing?
I would think yes, because I think it would be an ordinance, which would be the both.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, I think we're going to move on to recommendation 2 for the municipal code. So we want to amend the municipal code to allow the
I think your changes make a lot of sense. Yeah.
And does the designee shepherd, because in recommendation 4, you've got an increase in price. And it talks about all the departments that this goes through. So does the designee shepherd that to each department, or is that responsible of the person submitting the application to go to each one of these departments?
No, so we'll have a central location. Currently, all special event applications sorry. Currently, all special event applications go to Cali. Cali makes sure that everything is collected and then Cali distributes everything out already. So she's already distributing that and then gives us a deadline to respond.
Thank you.
Okay, sounds like we're supportive of recommendation 2 then.
So recommendation 3 is we're wanting to kind of put some guardrails on the amount of time that we're renting out our facilities. So now we have not only special events, but we're going to be having soccer and all kinds of programming going on there. So we want to kind of put some guardrails on there to make sure that we don't overuse our facilities. So we're making a recommendation that we limit special use permits to no more than 1 per facility per month. So we could potentially have 2. That's if we had one of our own town events. But otherwise, it would be just 1 event per facility per month.
You would not consider a town-sponsored event as a special event, right? So-
So if we were to have, say, Fall Festival in September, we would allow another event
At,
on another weekend, but we wouldn't allow 2 special events
got it.
that aren't town.
That works.
Yeah.
Support. Yep.
I get why that makes sense. I wonder if we can build in some sort of override though. You know, if we have 1 5-week month and nothing else going on the next month, that we could have 2 really great events. You know, I agree. We don't want to, you know, just pack the field every weekend all summer. That'll cost us a lot of money to repair the turf, but I wonder if there can be some kind of overrider.
I think I support that suggestion for like, maybe there's a memorial ride, right? Like something that happens on a date for a reason, and then it might be worthwhile to consider something else, but I would support that idea of maybe going through recommendation number 2 again.
We could potentially have 3 special events in a month if we had 1 at the reservoir and 1 out at, say, Wild Wing Park once it's opened. So there's also a possibility to shift to different facilities, but we could definitely take into consideration that and just say, you know, approximately 1 per park per month or something. So we're not tied into.
Yeah,
One and
you
done.
can work out the details. Is
Yeah.
is that a calendar month? Is that within the 30-day period? Like, how do you control that?
Are you guys, will you throw out that suggestion? So if I request Timnath, you know, Summerfield Park, and that's already booked for the month, but Wild Wing hasn't been, will you throw out that suggestion to whoever's asking for it?
Yeah, I work pretty closely with all of the event
Okay,
coordinators. And I both, if somewhere is booked, I pull everywhere that's available and give them all the different
That's-
dates. And we try to help them as much as we can and pencil in dates so that they can get their committees together and stuff like that.
Okay, great.
Well, and what if we said something like up to 2 events, which means that they wouldn't have to approve 2 if it was like a Saturday and a Sunday of the same week, you know, weekend or something like that. But it would give you a little bit of discretion as well, where you don't have to allow it, but you could in certain situations.
So yeah, let us play with that a little bit to see what we can come up with that makes sense. And then it'll be a part of the changes that we bring forth. So recommendation 4 is to increase the special use application fee to $100. It is currently $25. $100. It falls more in line with what Windsor and Fort Collins does. Larimer County depends on the size of the event. But it does take a lot of time. It's time consuming and takes a lot of staff time. And so this is the first effort to really try to get some cost recovery. I know it's not nearly enough with the amount of people that that go through and review the special events, but when they do have special events, another thing too, that we do is they do have to, if it's at a park, they do walk the facility with Nick as well, in addition to the review process. So they know where they can put their their castles or whatever. Because we do make exceptions for special events as long as they do a walkthrough with Nick, so they point out where all the irrigation is. So we're just wanting to recoup that a little bit more and also make sure that we're just getting serious inquiries for special events.
For special events, do we require, my work hat comes on, do we require special event coverage insurance wise when they do this, or are
We do.
responsible?
We do require insurance, and the requirements are in the.
While you're looking at that, do we make things like electricity and water accessible if they ask for it at additional cost? Or are they having to bring generators and power sources and all that?
If we have it available, we allow them to use it. And so if it's not available, obviously they have got to bring that in. And
Yeah.
then we also need to go through that approval process to make sure that they're bringing it in a safe way.
You sure? Okay. I mean, I would say then $100 fee, especially if they're using, yeah, I mean, that's.
I mean, it's
Way
a
more
buck a
reasonable.
person for
Yeah,
an
that's-
event. It's very reasonable.
Can't even eat out for 3 people for $100.
Okay, sounds like thumbs up.
We do have the insurance requirements. I just can't find it exactly, but
I-
it's
we
what
require
it's
it.
what we
I'm good.
require.
Yeah,
So
I'm good.
our fifth recommendation is to have the submittal deadline go from 30 days to 60 days. And so basically it does take some time to get these special events through the process, especially if they come at us 30 days in advance and they still don't have all the paperwork. Callie tries to work with them to collect all the paperwork in a timely fashion, but then we have to send it out for review. So we'd like to walk that back and have it a 60-day application deadline to give us more time and to give the coordinator more time to respond and react to any changes that staff has and staff comments. So Windsor does 90 days, Fort Collins is 45 business days, 60 for events with alcohol. Wellington, 60 days, Larimer County. They actually have a predetermined or pre-application meeting first and then 30 to 60 days, depending on the size. So I think given 60 days is
And that's 60 calendar days, not working days.
That 60-day requirement seems pretty reasonable. Since you mentioned alcohol, is alcohol allowed under the special use permit?
they would have to apply for a special permit. And that's through the state that Melissa handles. And that's not something we're looking at.
Allowing.
If
But
they
I
have,
mean, would we even allow it in one of the community parks we would?
I'll let Melissa knows more about that.
yeah, that's a whole separate permitting process that the state well, it goes through us first, but it's allowed by the state as long as it's okay with the town planning and development and our ordinances.
It seems to me that as soon as alcohol gets involved, the potential for liability goes up, right? I mean, you've got a bunch of people in a public space, and they've driven to get there. I don't know.
Yeah, they have to hire a tip certified servers and have the.
So it's
alcohol-
regulated by
It is.
it's regulated by the state, but I would certainly want our town attorney to look at the liability. I mean, you didn't mention what the limit is, but I recall my oldest daughter's wedding. I had to do a $1 million one-day policy because we were serving alcohol at that event, and it was on private property.
So currently, we do not allow alcohol in the parks, period. But if they
That's
do
what I was
apply for
looking-
this special use alcohol permit by the state, I believe they're the ones that require.
There's only one event that we have allowed alcohol at, and that's the Fall Festival.
Got it.
And we're managing that.
We're
event
managing
internally.
that,
Yeah.
but the permit is pulled by a nonprofit. And they do, the permit it sits with them.
And they normally, they manage the booth, they manage the ID checks, the
Yep.
wristbands, the entire process. Gotcha.
They do.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they hold the insurance also.
Yeah.
They are the ones who are required for the fencing, for the sale,
Right.
to have sale for, to have alcohol for sale in the state of Colorado at a special event, you have to be a nonprofit unless it's a private party like your wedding.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, you see, I mean, anything in Old Town is normally Rotary driven. The Rotary runs all that stuff. And it's no small feat. And that's why probably you haven't had requests because it's, to your
It's
point,
hard-
Bill, they
it's
gotta
hard.
Jump through
A lot of
every hoop
hoops.
possible. They can't
Yeah.
just get it overnight.
Yeah, I was gonna say, the nonprofit I work for, we had applied in Fort Collins for an event. It's a nonprofit. We wanted to serve alcohol. We didn't even want to charge for the alcohol. In the process, like the requirements were so extensive that we went with a different venue because of it. And then we were required to purchase insurance at certain events. And if you have alcohol, they do charge more for insurance to cover
Yes,
that
they
use
do.
as well.
With regard to the insurance component, I'd like some feedback from the town attorney on what you didn't mention our current requirement for insurance limit for an event, but I'd like some feedback on that as to what it is and what it maybe should be.
Melissa, well, what is the timing of that permit and how does it coincide with what we're proposing here?
I have to receive a special events permit, alcohol related, 45 days before an event.
How does that, does that fit in your guys' timeline? Does that give you enough time to plan around alcohol? Do we change this maybe for alcohol related events? We need more time? What's your thoughts?
Nothing's stopping an event coordinator from turning it in 6 months in advance.
Okay. Yeah, I was
Which a
just gonna
lot, some of those bigger events like Oliver Stratton's bike parade that's coming out, I've been working with her since January
Mhm.
on her special event process. Like there's nothing stopping anybody from being on top of it. And if you're having alcohol, there's no reason they shouldn't turn it in earlier.
Yeah, and my suggestion would maybe be like if it's an alcohol related event, maybe it's 90 days. So that's all I was suggesting is, does it give you guys more time to coordinate with the police or anything? And I know the permit, but if they're planning for it, maybe they have to give you guys more time. And I'm not sure it's necessary. I was just asking.
The state requires 45 days.
And we're proposing 60 days to apply for the event, which is what Fort Collins requires for an alcohol event. So 60
And we
days.
can change that, but per the state, we can make it a longer time period but the state has it at 45 days, pretty average.
And
Yeah.
correct me if I'm wrong, Melissa, is it 30 days that it has to be posted publicly?
It's 14 days
Okay.
and comments need to be turned into me within 10 days.
So if you have a 60-day as you're proposing, that would include events with alcohol, and they should just get it all in at 60 days. And that gives plenty of time for the Colorado thing to go through as well. That's what I think.
Yeah, I was just asking if you need more time.
If they
Then
have
what?
their ducks in a row, then they're
Okay.
fine.
Thank you.
I just note we're about 25 minutes in and on business item 1. All right, 60 days. Sounds like we're good.
All right, so town hall room rentals. We're looking at, so we currently charge for non-residents for rentals, but we do not charge residents for rentals. Just trying to get a more a cost recovery. That's a little bit more across the board. So we're looking at doing 25 for half the room, 35 for non-residents and 15 for not-for-profit. And then for the full room, it would be $40 an hour for residents, $50 for non-residents, and 30 for not-for-profit. We do pay for the after-hour rentals. We do pay $52.50 for building security, which is done by a contractor. And then it's pretty much an industry standard that we do charge equally, well, for resident, non-resident for rentals. So Windsor does 40 an hour plus the 250 deposit. Wellington does 25 an hour. Their rooms are a lot smaller. And Fort Collins is, depending on where you rent, it's anywhere from 25 to 40. Plus they tack on an additional 15 if it's after hours. And so our rentals basically would be after hours and on weekends for the most part.
So does that include the small meeting rooms, like the little office rooms?
No, it does not.
Okay, so it's only for the larger community room.
Right. So that does have a divider that can split that room into two. And so, so you can either do just one side, which has a capacity of 25 or 50 for both meeting rooms, which includes the servery.
Got it. So you, for the whole room, you get the kitchen too.
Correct.
Got it. If it's after hours, why, I mean, I guess for residents, and non-residents, if we're paying $52.50 an hour, I feel like the town should not subsidize non-resident or resident actual costs. My preference would be if it's after hours, they pay the $52.50 if they're a resident, and that's the only charge they pay is the security charge. And if it's a non-resident, then your proposal of $35 per hour plus the $52.50 actual charge makes sense to me.
And there's also additional cleaning that also goes along with it. So,
Yeah, we should not be subsidizing somebody's party.
I'll agree with Bill. I think I'm all for charging both residents and non-residents purely for the reason, I mean, the lights are on, someone's cleaning it. And I think we should 100% charge we don't need to make money on it, but we need to break even on the security fee, in my opinion.
okay, I can work with.
Fee, they come out and they do a walkthrough in the beginning and then at the end. So it's about 1.5 per event that we get charged.
1.5.
1.5 hours.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I mean,
So-
I guess whatever
Yeah.
the fee is,
Yeah.
my suggestion would be to,
Cover the
charge that.
fee.
yeah, cover the fee of whether it's 1 hour or 3, it doesn't
Sure.
matter. Yeah.
And I mean, basically, I would give residents our cost, period, not a tack on. Non-residents, I think if they want to use the space, the town residents paid for this facility, and it's reasonable to charge a rental fee in addition to the cost for non-residents is my position on it.
So by doing this, then it would make sense to not split the room, but if they were going to rent the room, they're going to get both.
However you guys want to do it.
Okay.
Is there ever a scenario where you get 2 people at the same time, like where you need to split it? Or is it cheaper to put the barrier up? Or are you just making that more available so you can have, 2 parties?
It would
at the
just
same
make it
time?
more available so you
Yeah.
could potentially have 2 things going on at once. And then there's some other things too that we're going to get to as far as programming and a need for programming space. So we could potentially program one side of it and rent out the other side for
Yeah.
a meeting.
Maybe you could put a provision in there where if it's only half, but unless
It's
unless
still the
being
same
used, they get
cost.
the whole
It's-
thing, yeah.
The security is still the same
Yeah.
cost regardless, so that should be charged regardless. And like I said, I wouldn't charge a room rental space fee to residents, but to non-residents I would. And then as far as cleaning and security, both resident and non-resident should pay our actual costs.
So
As
I'm
we-
going to be the one person that I'll just say I don't support charging residents for these town hall rentals. I think this is a community benefit. I think we have a good community. I would actually support charging non-residents and subsidizing that. And I know that's a wild calculation to try to get to it, but that would be my opinion is I think that this is a community benefit, right? Like we have our parks that are our community benefits and there's some
True.
things in here that, I agree. Maybe, I don't know what number we're trying to cost recover. I don't know if it's $1,000, if it's $10,000, if it's $100,000. But I will be in the minority here as I understand it. And I would just say I wouldn't charge residents for it, but that's my opinion.
How many events do what are we talking about in terms of the number of events that require security and cleaning?
In 2023, we had 221 rentals that were after hours or on weekends.
Wow.
That doesn't include the Sundays because we have a church that rents it every Sunday.
So that does or does not include.
It does not.
And what,
And so that's anywhere from HOA meetings to just general parties on the weekends and stuff like that. So, and we only do allow one rental per day. So they do get rented. And this also does include some rentals, like Starbucks was using the meeting rooms during the week for their meetings. That was a couple times. So that was included each time they rented, but I didn't really include the church as part of that. So during the week, we would allow multiple rentals, but at night and weekends, we would only allow for one. So we had about 220 in 2023 and about 35 or so were non-residents, but it could have been for resident business.
So if we did, let's say we rented it every day, what's our max liability and cost per day? If it's just one right? Because you're saying maybe like what's our max cost if we rented it every day? What would that be? Like, would it be the 5250 plus?
It'd be an hour and a half for that 5250. So
It's about
I
75.
estimated our annual costs at around between 12 and 15,000 for just waypoints, services. I went back and looked at cleaning. We only do extra cleaning if it's necessary and we've had to do that one time. So cleaning is not typically a charge.
So what was your number? I'm sorry, Lisa.
It's 15,000 a year. So
15,000.
if we divided that by the number of rentals, we could come up with a number if we needed to.
Yeah, I just think as a town, right, we spend a lot of money and we have a nice facility. So I still stay probably in the minority opinion.
$68.
And I would also like us to at least consider possibly a different rate when the building's already open, if it's not costing us extra. And that could be some of, potentially some of those groups that come in.
yeah, and I can just so you know too, if you've looked at recommendation 2 or not 2, 3. So we met with the school district about programming space and we haven't gotten a lot of programming space from the schools. So we were seeking permission to allow us to use these rooms for programming. And so for non-athletic programming, so if we wanted to do dance classes, art classes, we really have no place to do it. So we were looking for permission to make sure that we could use these meeting rooms, but that could tie up a lot of space. I could picture Monday through Thursday night potentially and Saturdays doing general recreation programming because we don't have any other space right now. So
Yeah.
the school district has this before and after school programs. We do get Bethke Gym that will be able to do basketball. But as far as their cafeteria meeting room space, because they have this after school programming, we could not get in there until after 6:30. So I don't know how much room rentals there will be if we start programming it out, just to throw that out there as well. So not to throw a curveball in there, but that's something to consider too, but wanted to make sure you guys were aware that that was a part of our recommendations for the town hall meeting rooms.
And the space is first come, first serve, right?
Correct.
The spaces are first come, first serve. No preference for a resident versus non-resident.
Not right now. We were looking at also having non-residents being, residents being able to make reservations 6
6
months in
months.
advance, and then non-residents 3 months in advance.
I like that.
For me, I share Luke's sentiment
Yeah.
that if this is a facility that's going to exist already and we can make it available, we should make it available. But I do differentiate at those times when by making it available, we incur additional cost. And I do think it makes sense to try to recover that additional cost. So if someone has to come in and open the building and do checks before and after, I think it makes sense to recover at least some portion of that.
Yeah.
You know, thoughts?
Okay. One other thing that we need to talk about too is the issue with deposits. It's an administrative pain to keep administering those, and mostly it's a one in, one out transaction. And right now with the room rentals, we're using the Colorado Payport, right? And so it's kind of a pain to issue those refunds. So we're asking that, at least for the time being, that we eliminate the need for damage deposits. And then we'll just make sure that there's language in there that they will be responsible for any and all damage to the facility as part of the rental agreement.
When was the last time we held a deposit?
We have not.
Is there a way to, instead of taking money in, can we get a credit card on file in case?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if it's a secure, whatever payment method with language in there that says, should, something happen, we can charge the card on file. I mean, I don't know that you're gonna have if that's an option, and maybe kind of best of both worlds where you don't have to, but we can still recoup if we need to.
I know that every hotel, when you check in, just about every hotel, when you check in, they put a $150 or whatever hold. They don't actually completely charge it, and it automatically reverts after you check out within a few days. So I don't know if the credit card service that you're using can handle something like that, but that might be one way.
So currently the meeting room space, since a lot of town staff will go in and reserve the meeting rooms, we don't have that particular one on rec desk. It's through calendars and through Susan, who we do that
Yeah.
for. Like shelter rentals, it's done through rec desk, where that's a little bit different. Where we can collect a deposit and easily refund it through there, but it's the Payport system that we have, and making sure that any and all staff have access to go ahead and reserve these rooms when they need to. And so we're still using kind of an antiquated system where they fill out the web form and
Got it.
and go that direction. So
Good with that.
so so you're good with the priority use for rec programming and 6 month in advance for resident, 3 month for non.
Yep, looks like it.
Shelter rentals. So here's another one is a rental fee for both residents, non-residents, $10 an hour for resident, 20 for non. Full day rental would be $45 for residents, 95 for non-residents. We did adjust our schedule on Saturday to have a seasonal parks employee to go in and make sure that the shelters are cleaned up. There's times where shelters can get kind of dirty Friday after work. And so, and then on Sunday, we do have reservoir staff going over there and facilitating. One of the things too, with Rec Desk, we can do multiple reservations in a day. So we could have an 11 to 1, a 2 to 3. The way it's built in, there's always going to be an hour buffer. There's a 30-minute cleanup and a 30-minute setup. So if someone wanted to do it. So we're looking at doing that. Also by having them charge, it makes them, so we have had rentals where people just not show up because they don't have to pay for it. And that robs someone else from the opportunity too. So we're talking about one shelter right now. It's only the shelter next to the restrooms at Timnath Community Park. We are not going to be offering up the shelter by the pickleballs because there's really no amenities. The bathroom's away. There's no electricity. But when we do have Wild Wing shelter online, we would go ahead and start renting that as well.
I can't picture it. Is there a grill or anything of the sorts? No?
No.
Will we be adding anything like that?
No,
Okay.
they are allowed to bring their own gas grill if they'd like.
Okay. I mean, I almost kind of err on the same side as Luke on the, I mean, the shelters to me, and maybe you put it, clean at your own risk type scenario in the beginning if it's not clean, and we avoid some of the cost of cleaning. But if it's just a shelter and someone wants to use it, I don't necessarily know that we need to charge for it, but your point of blocking it and not allowing somebody else, it's kind of torn there.
On Monday, we had someone in the shelter and then someone on the other side of the spray pad had two 10 by 10 tents set up and having their own separate party on the other side of the spray pad. So, I mean, they figured it out.
Right.
Yeah, but once again, I would support not charging residents for this. The shelters outside, you clean up. That would be my general consensus on this.
Yeah.
So the other agencies, sorry to cut you off, Rob.
I was gonna, for me, it's a little bit of a supply and demand. If the demand is low enough that we can absorb it, that makes sense. If we're seeing that everything is constantly booked, I think at some point the economics of it take over. And
Currently, we have shelters reserved. So there's a demand there. Either way,
but
we
that's for the
definitely
full
want to,
day, right?
either way, we do want to go ahead and do the reservations through the system. And that way we can still go ahead and add multiple reservations per day. So we'll take the recommendations from council on this one.
Because it's possible, right, that they wouldn't be booked every weekend if we could do 2-hour blocks, 4-hour blocks, right? Because if you can only rent it right now for the full day.
Correct. So if they rent it, it's theirs the whole day. We do not allow any other rentals.
But you're proposing it will go to the rec desk.
It currently is on rec desk right now. So this is currently on rec desk for reservations.
I guess my other question would be, if we do charge, right, it sounds like booked 2 days a week for months. I'm assuming that there's probably a guesstimated dollar amount. Where would that money go? What could the pitch be that it goes back to our parks and recs and improvements, and is that where it's going to go so we can make it actually a benefit back to the community, even though we're charging them? And then my other question would be, is there anyone policing, to Luke's point of 2-hour, 4-hour blocks? If I'm at hour 6 and I'm only supposed to be here for 2 hours, is there confrontations of get out of my rental type?
Well, if we start doing multiple rentals a day, and like I said, we do have a seasonal parks person on Saturdays to be checking in between those rentals to make sure that one's getting off and one's coming on. And then Sundays, we have the reservoir staff coming over to do the same thing. So we will have staff available to do those for the shelters. And they do trash. Yeah, they do a lot of, and check the
Staffing
bathrooms.
them because of the rentals? If the rentals weren't there, would that person still be patrolling or doing other things?
We would for parks because we want to have additional eyes on the weekends out on the parks and making sure that they're clean. And so our one seasonal, his name's Jacob, he's out there every Saturday. He does go through and double check trash and make sure that the playgrounds are safe, that nothing happened overnight. So they're already doing a lot of those things. This would just be one additional thing. So even if we were to go away from this, the Saturday seasonal is here to stay.
Gotcha. Okay.
Well, I certainly like the idea of multiple people being able to use the shelter on any given day. That's makes it more available to more people. So.
so I'm kind of hearing is we'd prefer not to charge for the shelters if we can. Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, if it's a resident, I'm kind of with Luke on this one. It's only $10 an hour. However, if it's a no-show and you don't cancel, maybe you charge them a no-show fee.
Yeah, I'm in for not charging residents for this one and then and then charging non-residents to come in and do it would be my opinion.
I'll agree with that, especially considering
Yeah.
that we already have the staff's working regardless. But I also wouldn't be opposed to Bill's point if it's a no-show. Maybe you get,
Yeah,
a
because, I mean, you're-
one-time
You're
pass. and
dipping
then the rest you
somebody
gotta get
else out
charged
of the
for.
use if
Yeah.
you're a no-show and it's online. If you're not going to be there, go cancel it.
Well, I think with this one, there's a little bit more flexibility with having them pay the deposit and us holding the deposit if they don't show. But we'll need to make sure that staff is looking at it. But like I said, this one's a little bit different. It's a different system. So,
Yeah, personally, I've rented the shelter and I've paid the deposit and gotten it back, and I would have preferred you just charged me $20 and kept it from the hassle factor. I don't know. Okay.
So we were also trying to close the gap a little bit. So currently our shelter rentals have a capacity of 50. We'd just like to bump that up to approximately 75 to give it a little bit more flexibility. And there's plenty of room to spread out. So I think we can definitely afford that. And then just so when we came back with an adoption to the policy, I didn't want to create any shock here, but I wanted to make sure that we added language that specifically prohibits inflatable bounce houses as a part of parties, any use of stakes to tether the equipment to the ground, because there's irrigation underneath. And right now people are indiscriminately just going out there. And so we want to overall increase the signage, but wanted to make sure that there was no surprises when I added that to the policy.
And that would include like the 10 by 10 tents.
Well, they could have the 10 by 10 tents.
They can't stake it.
Sandbagged.
Yeah,
They can weight it.
correct.
Yeah.
So it's the staking part is
Yep.
what we're trying to prevent.
Yep.
And if they want inflatables and all that, they'd have to go through the whole special events type. Okay, perfect.
I'm good with that.
Just wanted to move to field rentals, make sure you guys were okay with us doing reservation systems out there. So any given day when you go out there right now, there's anywhere from 5 to 7 different teams out there practicing, and it's kind of a little bit of chaotic. And as we start our first soccer leagues this fall, we want to make sure that we can guarantee space. So what we want to do is we want to put in a reservation system that we would handle through the Parks and Rec department, where the town's event programs would have first priority. And then any rec league team from wherever, as long as it's a rec league team, not a competitive team, they would have second priority to reserve space. And we're not looking to charge. We're just looking to kind of control, and we will be able to take parts of it off, whether we have 5 spaces for practice or 3 or, so we just want to make sure we're good with being able to do reserve the space. I think Timnath Community Park, we could probably get 5 to maybe even 7 spaces for reservable practice times.
I actually support this a lot. Thank you, Tom, because as a rec baseball coach, we're not well funded. And so it's hard going and asking parents for money to practice.
Yeah,
So
no, we
I
didn't want to
appreciate
charge
this.
for the rec leagues because we know I volunteer coach a ton too. So I understand. And so we just want to make sure that we're have at least 80% of their kids and that are Timnath residents that for the practices. So.
I agree. The only thing I might toss in, I know this is a pro recommendation, something to consider is maybe trying to just get another backstop somewhere in town. Just get a whole field.
So we're looking at that. I've been talking to Callie and Nick, maybe putting another one out at Timnath Community Park, but I want to make sure that we don't maintenance have to go around it. Plus we have some pretty set places where our vendors go for those special events. So
You got 2 professional field operators over here. They're ready to go.
got it.
Ton of time.
Yeah, sounds good.
So the other recommendation is that we do want to look at having to be able to charge when we do have these competitive teams and tournaments. And as we grow our inventory of parks and rec, just trying to get ahead of the curve where we would be able to rent our fields out. We're looking at $25 per hour per court, per field. It's kind of a standard. We have gotten a lot of requests already for the pickleball courts at Timnath Community Park. I've been very hesitant. I want to wait till we have those 4 additional courts at Wild Wing before we even entertain that idea, but I want to be ready for it. We were looking at $25 an hour, and then if it's a field that needs to be painted, that takes staff time. So we were looking at $50, which would cover materials and staff time to paint. We would not allow both facility amenities, so we wouldn't rent out all 10 pickleball courts. So if we rented the 6 at the community park, they would still have Wild Wing to be able to go to for the drop-in play. I know they would have to drive, but trying to be as accommodating as possible. As far as field space, we have the community park would be eligible, potentially the reservoir grass would be eligible, and Wild Wing Park once it gets up and running for field rentals. And so just wanted to get your guys' input on a per hour fee for competitive tournaments and competitive teams.
Yep.
I think we need a special fill rate though. But 10% surcharge? You okay paying that extra, Phil?
Also, side note, but I noticed that we have lines painted out there right now. Is that something we did?
Nope.
Okay.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah. Brayson, he's like, do you know who painted those lines out there? I'm like, what? It caught us all by surprise. So we don't know where they came from.
Were they,
They were,
no straight,
two big ones.
not approved. They're crooked. Can't hire them. Looking for a good intern.
Just wanted to make sure that you guys were good with allowing the Poudre School District to rent our facilities. If they do so, kind of reciprocate the same cost model that they charge us.
As long as they keep Timnath kids in Timnath schools, I'll be good with it.
So anyways, I reached out to Fort Collins to see if they were able to get an IGA. Wellington said no, they pay the fees. And so I don't know, I'm used to having IGAs, but I'm not sure if I'm trying to see if Fort Collins is, and we're meeting with them on Thursday again to see if an IGA is even possible or we have to pay these. But if we do, then we would go ahead and try to pass those on. We've already gotten a request for the tennis team to use our tennis courts this fall, so. When it comes to recreation programming, we got, these are the last 2. The first one is how do we want to do resident versus non-resident reservations? Not everybody charges a resident and non-resident rate. That is definitely something that has been used and is a model, but there's also other places that just have a delay. So I know some of our residents have to wait 2 weeks to register for swim lessons for the town of Windsor. My recommendation is that we don't charge a resident, non-resident, but we do have like a 1 week or a 2 week window for resident versus non-resident.
Yep. Agree.
I like it.
Okay. The final recommendation is according to the master plan for the transportation master plan, only 4% of Timnath households have incomes that are below federal poverty guidelines, but I think we should have some sort of scholarship program. There's a couple different ways we can do it. 1, we can reach out to maybe a third party to partner. 2, we can see if council would be willing to set aside a certain dollar amount that we would be able to grant for scholarships. Or another one is we would charge like $1 per registration. So if you signed up for a $40 soccer program, $1 of that would go to a scholarship program where we would be able to offer up a scholarship of up to 50%. Obviously, we'd have to take some time to kind of build it up a little bit if we were to go that route. But what I've done in the past is the qualifiers were either on free and reduced lunch or they were on Medicaid. And those were kind of the qualifiers that we use to determine eligibility. So
Is this mostly for like youth sports?
it would be for youth sports, yes.
Yeah, I'm totally in favor of that. And this percentage, as the housing mix changes, if we have more apartments in town, et cetera, that number's going to change.
Okay.
So,
I think I could even, can you give me a rough idea of, I mean, at 4%, what are we talking roughly?
I can't answer that question. I'm not prepared to answer that.
Okay. What's the average fee associated with a youth joining?
Right now, our tennis camps were 65. 65 for soccer, 125 for tennis. Our soccer leagues coming up will be $75 for the league.
Yeah. I mean,
And those prices fall in line
$125
with
for
what Windsor was charging.
$1,000 potentially,
Huh?
$1,000-ish maybe.
Until we get a true,
Well, I can help. I'll lend services to help with a local nonprofit that will probably fund
Okay.
that too, in order to get, if it's at risk or in need youth, they'll fund that.
yeah, and we can do additional qualifiers. Those are the ones that I've used at my other stops in the field was free and reduced lunch where they provided a letter from the school or on Medicaid. So
And as council, I don't know if you're looking for recommendation, but I'd recommend us start maybe the fund 1 year.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
I
we have
agree-
to
I
start
agree.
that fund and then however you decide to continue to fund it. But I think for next year, we can maybe as council
Yeah.
fund it.
Yep.
okay, very good.
Okay. Great.
Look at that, 5:57.
Good. Do you have what you need?
We do. Thank you so much.
Council, any last thoughts?
No, thank you, Tom.
Good work, guys.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Appreciate all that.
Stand adjourned. We'll reconvene in 3 minutes.
Question for someone. The PSD.
31st.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go.
Do we need
All right, good evening, everybody. We will call to order the Tuesday, July 9th, Timnath Town Council meeting. Ms. Peters Garcia, will you take the roll?
Yes. Mayor Robert Oxmacher,
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Luke Wagner,
Here.
Councilmember Jeremy Holt,
Here.
Councilmember Bill Jenkins,
Here.
Councilmember Lisa Lake.
Here.
Very good. Item number 2, amendments to the agenda. Council, any requests to amend the agenda?
No.
Seeing none, we will move on now to public comment. Public comment is an opportunity for members of the public to comment on any item that doesn't otherwise have a comment opportunity in the agenda. Public comment is limited to 3 minutes. I see we have a number of people signed up this evening, beginning, looks like Mr. Craig Harrison. Sir, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you very much. Craig Harrison, 5329 South County Road 3F. A fine resident of 45 years. So I've been here longer than I think everybody. Really a proud owner of the real estate under my feet right here, because I used to own it, and you guys have done one heck of a job building this masterpiece. And it's really great to be here and be able to address you in this fine building. So I thank you for that. I annexed 15 years ago, and in the annexation had the vision for a use by right. You know, use by right's pretty important for a town hall. And here it is. So glad to have this as the town center. When we leave here tonight, my wife and I are going to get in the car. We're going to drive. We're probably going to Fort Collins for dinner or Windsor for dinner. And we're going to leave tax dollars there because we don't have a sit-down restaurant here in town. So the real question is, why don't we? And what can we do to try to get some? So in your packets, and would they be in the packets? Yes,
We do.
yeah, so had my engineers go do a little work, and they basically looked at Fort Collins, Loveland, Windsor, and Wellington to figure out if you had a 3,000 square foot restaurant, how many parking spaces you would need. And it's basically about 15 in each community except ours, which would be 30. So to get that extra 15 here in town, you got to build them. That'd be about $225,000, and that might be cheap. And then you have to have more real estate to put that on, and that more real estate might put it up at another 125,000. So it's about a $350,000 spread for a restaurant to come to our fine community versus these other communities. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention, and hopefully we can do something about it and we can get some restaurants here. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Harrison. We appreciate your visiting with us today. Next, I have Aaron Woolsey signed up. I'm not sure if Aaron wished to speak or not. Sounding like no. If you change your mind, let us know. Then we have Bob Bakey? Bob, are you here? Mr., is it Bakey? Bakley? No? Bob Baker, okay. Sure, Aaron, we had you on the list. We just called you, so welcome. You're up. Oh, no worries. We are here
Nice
to go.
meet you all.
Welcome.
We just
You have
wanted to introduce
3 minutes.
ourselves.
Thank you.
What was that?
You have 3 minutes.
Oh, yeah,
Thank you.
sorry. We just want to introduce ourselves. I'm Aaron Woolsey. That's my associate, Bob Baker. And we just opened up a new office space, a law firm in Old Town Timnath right now. It's right across the street from the church. We specialize in wills, estates, and small business matters. Just a little bit about myself. I went to the University of Virginia for undergrad. For law school, I went to the University of Michigan. I did a little bit of corporate law afterwards, and now I'm we're opening up a law firm in Timnath, which is a bit of my dream to open up a small town law firm. So thank you so much. We're so glad to be here.
Mr. Woolsey, thank
Well,
you.
welcome.
Congratulations, yes. And
we
Mr.
live in
Baker,
such a
sorry for
wonderful
butchering
town.
your name.
Oh, excuse me, Bob Baker, 5051 John Muir Drive. We're over right by the swimming pool in Trailside. Been officing in my home for the last 2 years and went to this is the kind of community we have. I went to a breakfast of seniors in we call it the seniorish breakfast on a Friday morning and met a gentleman and, we compared family notes, how many kids you got, et cetera. He said he had a son who was looking for an association in estate planning. And I went ding, 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 ding. Been waiting for 3 years to find the guy. And within 1 month, Aaron and I have gotten acquainted and we're already moving into our new space. We're located just a little bit north of the church in Old Town, right across the street from First Pres, north of the railroad, of course. We bring a total of 64 years of legal experience. I bet you can guess who has the most of those years. And I have a bunch of lawyer jokes, but I will spare you tonight. We just want to let you know we love our community. We want to be very much a part of just what I think is a growing excitement about bringing Old Town back to life. And it's wonderful already, but it's going to be a lot better. And we'd love to be a part of that and help in any way that we can to build our community. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Baker. Welcome to town. Very good. Anyone else care to make comment today? All right, seeing none. We'll move on then to our consent agenda item, which consists of 4 items. First, the approval of the June 25th, 2024 council meeting minutes. Second, the June 28th check register. Third, the July 1st check register. And fourth, Resolution 53, Series 2024, a resolution to approve the emergency authorization to procure a temporary non-pot system for Timnath Reservoir. Council, any requests to pull an item from the agenda? Okay, this time I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as read.
I move to approve the consent agenda as read by the mayor.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Been properly moved and seconded. Any discussion? Very good. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I also vote aye. Anyone opposed? Very good. Consent agenda passes unanimously. Moving on to reports. Council, anything to share?
I'll just make an announcement that maybe some of you have heard or most of you, but the Fort Collins Loveland Water District has an emergency at Soldier Canyon at the filter plant. And they're requesting everybody to not water outside, no irrigation at all for the next 12 hours. And to not use any excessive amount of water due to low pressure and low water availability. Hopefully it's fixed by tomorrow.
Thank you,
Actually,
Councilmember Jenkins.
I've got an update from that. So it did look like they were able to fix the situation. So there has been an update on that. So we just
Awesome.
got some information just recently. All right.
Very good. Thank you, Director Stone. Mayor Pro Tem.
I just want to thank all the staff, all the planning that went in for the July 4th event. I think Callie left, but Callie did a great job. I want to thank all the volunteers that were out there. I think I saw Tom out there, and I saw Justin as well. So I thought it was a great event. Very happy that it didn't happen like last year where we were watching it from different parts of the town. So I think we were lucky, but everything was great. I really enjoyed personally the glow sticks that went around. I thought that was great. So thank you, town staff and everybody involved in it.
Very good. Mr. Lake. Very good. Yes, I concur. The 4th of July event was fantastic. Thank you to all the staff that made that happen. I was out at the reservoir the day after, and they were still out there working hard, cleaning everything up. So, these amazing events don't just happen. A lot of work, a lot of planning goes into that, and we are very, very appreciative. I did note, a number of the council members have been invited to a community meeting on July 31st with the school district to hear a little bit more about their long-term planning. As folks recall, the prior council passed a resolution encouraging the school district to move forward in such a way that keeps Timnath kids in the Timnath Middle High pipeline and not feeding into other schools. The school district currently has a survey that's out there that they're encouraging people to provide commentary on. I encourage folks to do that. I think as a community, we need to continue to send the message that it is important to us to keep the kids in that Timnath Middle High pipeline and certainly other thoughts as well. I also wanted to share that there is a neighborhood meeting for the Ladera Sketch Plan. That's July 18th at 6 p.m. At the CF&G in Main Street. So if folks weren't aware of that, that's an opportunity to participate in that process. Anything else, council? All right. Let's then move on to agenda item 6B. I believe we have some guests in the lobby that we can invite in. Or 6A, I'm sorry. Yeah, would you? Welcome, everyone. We are here this evening to officially recognize the Wolves baseball team. The Wolves play in the Fort Collins Baseball Club League. They represent Bethke. They are all in the kindergarten league, of course, moving on to first grade next year. But this team has had an impressive season and have represented our community with class, and we wanted to take time to acknowledge them. This team has done an amazing job learning the game of baseball. Just some incredible feats here, including a double play and also an unassisted triple play this year. Yeah. We're very proud of the Wolves this year. They have really learned to play as a team, to support each other, both on and off the field, and also to compete with class, really representing our community in the most positive way. So congratulations, Wolves. Not everybody is here, but the Wolves are Alex, Archer, Bubba, Connor, Cora, Dagny, Emmett, Finn, Graham, MJ, Milo, Tito, and Waylon. And if I could maybe ask the rest of council to come down real quick so we could get a photo with the Wolves. We can do better than that. You guys ready? Yep, yep. You guys ready? 1, 2, 3. Go Wolves! Good job. All right. Thank you, team. Awesome job. Job. All right, guys, way to go.
Good job.
We'll see you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow. Coach Luke and Coach Alex. Great job, guys.
Oh, I forget if it's 1 or 3.
Wait, what color we are?
All right. Thank you, everyone. It's always nice to recognize the good things going on in our community. Moving on to agenda item 6B, Resolution 54, Series 2024, a resolution appointing Renzo Bianchi to the Timnath Planning Commission. Ms. Graves.
So the town received 8 highly qualified applications for this vacancy, and we really appreciate the time and effort each applicant invested in this process. All 8 applicants were interviewed by the chair of the Planning Commission, and 4 finalists were subsequently interviewed by the chair, the mayor, and the community development director. Mr. Bianchi was selected based on his qualifications, his past participation in the Citizens Academy, and his demonstrated interest in volunteering to serve the town. The term of this appointment expires on March 31st, 2027, and staff recommends approval of this resolution.
Very good. Thank you. Mr. Bianchi, would you be willing to come up and introduce yourself to council?
Good evening. Very happy to be here. Very excited about this position. I look forward to being able to be a contributing member of the community. And I felt that given my background as an engineer, I'm retired, I thought this would fit in very well. And Mr. Holt, thank you for vacating the position and making it available.
Very good. Thank you, sir. As Ms. Graves mentioned, I had the opportunity to participate in the interviews here. It was excellent to see 8 candidates apply for this. It's a good problem to have, which is to have a lot of very qualified candidates. So we interviewed 4 and just a lot of talent there. Mr. Bianchi applied with us once before. He came in a very close second in that process, and really appreciate you sticking with us and continuing to apply. As mentioned, he participated in our Citizens Academy, which always I think gives folks a leg up. Yeah, I appreciate everyone that helped out with this. At this time, I would entertain a motion to approve the resolution appointing Renzo Bianchi to the Timnath Planning Commission.
Since that was my seat, I'll make the motion for you. So I make a motion to approve Mr. Bianchi to the Planning Commission.
Is there a second?
Second.
Good. Council, any comments?
Yeah, I'll say thanks from us up here at council. You had a very similar path as I did. I applied, didn't get it. Citizens Academy was created, went through the whole process, and ultimately spent 2 great years on that planning commission. And you're in phenomenal hands with Phil over there. So thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Sure, thank you.
Yeah, I'd just like to comment that I had a chance to look at all 8 applicants' resumes, and really well qualified Timnath citizens willing to volunteer their time, including you, sir. And I'd just like to say there likely will be openings in the future. So if you didn't get it this time, come back again. There definitely will be future opportunities. And I really appreciate the involvement of that many citizens with really solid backgrounds trying to help their community. So we really appreciate it.
Thank you. All right.
Mr. Mayor, if I could,
Yes.
over here. The Citizens Academy mentioned actually opens its applications next week, so I thought it would just be good for the public to hear that. We have it going out through social media and things of that nature, but those applications open Monday, and historically, they've filled within 24 to 48 hours. So if you're thinking about it, don't think, just do.
Thank you, Manager Adams. I concur. Any other comments? All right. All those in favor of approving the resolution appointing Renzo Bianchi to the Timnath Planning Commission signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Mr. Bianchi, congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Right. Item 6C, first reading and setting of a public hearing for ordinance 13 series 2024, an ordinance adopting amendment 16, Article 6, Article 10, and Article 12 of the Timnath Land Use Code. I will note that previously, normally we'd done first readings on consent agenda. And what I asked the staff to do here today is to provide just a very brief kind of orientation presentation. The intent here is not for a full presentation, not for questions, but for this first reading to just kind of get everyone on council, everyone tuning in, just kind of awareness that this is out there so that when we come for second reading and public hearing, in a couple of weeks, that everyone's had a chance to kind of think about things. So with that, Ms. Graves.
Dan, go on. The following land use code amendments previously continued by council during work sessions and meetings have been consolidated into Land Use Code Amendments 16. The first amendment clarifies existing policies related to public and private street specifications. The second addresses our annexation procedures. And the third updates our oil and gas regulations. Staff will present on these amendments at the next council meeting on July 23rd. Additionally, we did receive comments from the American Petroleum Institute today via email, and we've forwarded those comments on to you for your review. And we will consider those comments as we review them more closely. So that was a very brief description. So hopefully that will suffice.
All right. Thank you, Council. And again, we'll have a full presentation and full opportunity for questions, but anything that's just burning and needs to be addressed now. All right. Then at this time, I would entertain a motion to approve on first reading and set a public hearing of ordinance number 13 series 2024, an ordinance adopting Amendment 16, Article 6, Article 10, and Article 12 of the Timnath Land Use Code.
I move to approve the first reading and setting a public hearing on July 23rd, 2024 at 6 p.m. Ordinance number 13, series 2024, an ordinance adopting amendments number 16, Article 6, Article 10, and Article 12 of the Timnath Land Use Code.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Councilman Jenkins. Council, any comments? Nope. All those in favor of the motion as read by Mayor Pro Tem Wagner signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, we will be back then. The motion carries unanimously. Be back on July 23rd for second reading and public hearing. I believe we're out of items. Does anyone have anything else? Good. We'll stand adjourned.